Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Augusto Argandoña Fine Arts. Anytime in the course of this narrated tutorial, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. And if you should want to learn about my virtual classes or want to see my paintings, you may do so in my website at aafinearts.com. This tutorial is one in a series of videos, tutorials that I have done about painting street scenes with watercolors. This particular one is an image that happens in many tourist type locations, both here in Florida as well as other locations where there are two sides of a street or a town, really. You have the very modern lines of condominium buildings where all the tourists and snowbirds go to. And also you have the old city, old towns, old streets with old buildings, which seem to a degree a lot more picturesque, not as sanitary looking, and they are far more attractive. And this is one of those streets. This happens to be old Cancun, Mexico. Very colorful colors in the buildings. Old buildings, nothing fairly new, but they have a lot more character. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and paint. So without much more talking, I'll just get to the fun part of this tutorial, and that's the painting part. I'm gonna start by letting you know that for the most part, I use my flat brushes. I have quite a few different types of brushes, but I tend to prefer the flat brushes. And my paper is a 140-pound cold press. It's my preferred type of paper. I have painted on 300-pound and on 90-pound, and I also painted on hot press. I don't care too much for the hot press because the pigment kind of just stays on the surface, whereas with the cold press, the pigment and the water go deep into the fabric of the paper, and that's what makes it far more suited for the type of painting that I do. So I'm going to go ahead and start. The image, like I said, is very colorful, and this photograph was done in the morning. So we'll have that type of light. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to the sky area. Not too much. Now I'm going to make a mixture of manganese blue. Maybe a little bit more water in my brush. Get some manganese blue and cobalt blue, which makes a really nice sky color. And with that, I'm going to just add some of these colors right into the areas. There will be some. I'm going to leave some areas white for the clouds, just like that. A little bit more of the manganese. Missing some areas where the sky, where the buildings will be, and a little less blue in the distance, like that. And that's pretty much it for the sky. So while that's drying, I'm also going to go ahead and add the colors for the street. And for that, I am going to use some brown matte mix it here on the palette with cobalt blue, like that. A little bit more of the cobalt blue, and a little bit more water in my brush, get that kind of a grayish tone. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and paint the sidewalks and the street all at the same time. But this is going to be a little bit darker over here. I'm going to paint those cars too, all over the whole thing. And I'm going to have a little bit more water in my brush here. I'm going to bring those colors much lighter on the sunny side of the street, like that. I'm also going to add just a touch of burnt sienna to that mixture to kind of warm it up a little bit, like that. I'm going to add a little bit more water to my brush. Okay, here we are, that's a much better color. A little lighter on the sunny side. Like that. And the shadow side will be much darker, but I'm going to leave that for now. And there's also a little bit of tile or pavers in this area, so I'm going to add a little bit of that color in this area for the pavers, like that. There we are. I'm going to let that dry. And but so now I'm going to start doing the buildings. Now everything on this side will be in the shade, and all of this will be in the sunlight. There's quite a few very colorful buildings here, so I'm going to start over here with the brightest ones. And for that, I'm going to use some of the manganese blue for this building over here. Maybe keep it fairly light because of the sunlight. A little bit more of the manganese. Maybe I'm going to add a little bit of the cobalt blue to that mixture, but mostly the manganese. There we are. And that's why I like my flat brushes. I have far more control when I'm doing buildings with the flat brushes. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to make a mixture of this cobalt teal, or cobalt turquoise actually, with a little bit of this blue, mixing that. And there's another building here that has those colors. This is this building over here. There's going to be a little bit of vegetation there, so I'm going to just leave it like that. Straighten that line a little bit. I'm going to bring a little bit more of the cobalt blue into that area. And there's another lower area. This building is blue, like that. There we are. And I'm going to use a little bit of the light of that teal color with a little bit of the brown matter, make a grayish tone, and lighten that up a little bit. There, like that. I'll let that dry. Now this building over here is sort of an orange color, but what I'm gonna use is I'm gonna use some yellow ochre there, like that, with this brown color that I have in my palette. I'm going to start all of these colors are very bright, but I'm going to start minimizing the brightness as we go into the, I'm going to add a little bit more yellow ochre, go into the sunny side of these buildings. There's some greenery here too, so I'm going to allow for that. Bring that over here like that. There, kind of blend those colors so they don't, yeah, that looks much better. So there's a gradual transition of color there. Now, for the rest of the buildings, I'm just gonna have I'm gonna mix a little bit of ultramarine there with this gray color that I have here, and do this, all of these buildings here, kind of gray. Some are white, and we'll leave some of those like that. There, like that, there. Now this building is a two-color. It has some, I'm going to get some of this yellow here, with my yellow ochre. Now I'm also going to bring in some new gambos to that. And this lower area is yellow. And it's very bright yellow. It's almost kind of greenish. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of cadmium orange into that. That's better. There, like that. And then this wall also has that color. Yeah. And then, but this upper area is kind of green, so I'm going to use this turquoise color, and to that I'm going to add a little bit of permanent sub-green, because this balcony area has that color. This upper area also has that color. Up to that overhang. This overhang over here. There we are. All right. Now I think I'm going to add a little bit more of this turquoise. And because this is kind of bright, yeah, that's much better. The value of that color is much better there. And then we'll do the same thing over here. There we are. And these buildings, these old buildings, and for some reason they're not, I don't know how they built them, but they're not straight, which is kind of unusual. Some of the walls are kind of not at right angles and things like that. I'm going to darken this up a little bit more. There, like that. Okay, now I'm gonna let that dry. Change brushes, and with my different size brush, I'm gonna add a little bit of color to some of these other areas. So I'm gonna come in with the rose madder over here, and a little bit more of that rose madder. There we go. A little bit of that rose over here. There we are. I'll clean my brush, make it light. I'm also going to pick up a little bit of cadmium orange. And this building over here has kind of yellowish color. There. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that rose madder to this color, make it sort of almost that brownish orange. There we go. There. I'm going to come back with this color over here, and I'm going to add a little bit of that over here on this building. There. Maybe this lower area also. There, like that. And I'm going to minimize those colors. Like that there. Okay. Now I'm going to change brushes again and go to my round brush. And I'm going to use some of this pink. This is a quinacridone color. It's very bright. And I think I'm going to use a little bit of this magenta mix into that. There we are. Because this wall has some of that magenta color. It's an overhang here, very bright. I'm going to minimize the brightness of that. There we are. And there's other vertical areas of this building. Like that. And there's also a little bit of that color over here. There. Okay. Now, this overhang has a little bit of a brownish, so I'm going to use this gray. I'm going to bring some burnt sienna into that. And this is mostly white, but this on the side of that overhang is kind of gray. I can put a little bit more ultramarine into that. A little bit of a brown matter. There we are. And because we'll also be picking up reflective colors from that blue, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of the blue that's already in my palette and put some of that here. There, like that. Okay. Now this area looks like it's kind of a thatched type roof. So I'm going to use some yellow ochre. Mix it here, bring some burnt sienna. And I'm also going to use some burnt umber. There. that. The rest I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna darken later. But while the paper is dry now, I'm gonna bring in some more, probably, yeah, cadmium orange. Mix it there with the burnt sienna, like that, under this wall here. And one, also this side, the shadow side of this building. There we are. And also going to bring some, let's see, I'm going to bring some sepia. There's the sepia with ultramarine blue, make it be gray, and tone this down. There we are, because it's in the shade. Yeah, that's better. I'm gonna go back to those colors and go one more time over the whole thing. Now it's really putting this in the shade. And these buildings are not the most, the best painted, so they are kind of, the paint job is not that good, so this will reflect that. I'm gonna add a little bit more water here, remove some of that pigmentation. There we are, that's the value that I wanted. There we are, good. I go back to my round, and I'm going to use this gray. I'm going to add a little bit more ultramarine into that. I'm going to bring in some, a little bit of sepia. I'm going to do some of the gray areas here. There. There we are, like that. Okay, now I was painting standing up, I'm gonna sit down, elevate my chair, and so now I'm gonna start getting in some of the closer details. For example, I'm going to get some more sepia, mix it there, and more ultramarine blue, and do this darker area. That thatched roof, it looks like a balcony with a thatched roof there. Bring more the burnt umber. A bit more of the burnt umber like that. Like that. There we are. Also, there's some greenery there. I'm gonna use this. Bring some on the sea green. Mix there like that. And some of that greenery, probably some plantings on that balcony. There's some over here too. There. I'm going to use some aureole in yellow. Bring it there. Use some manganese blue, make it bright green, and do this greenery over here. Like that. There's some on this side too. This is sort of like a half a wall. So I'm going to bring some more of that under sea green there. And these are palm trees. That half wall right underneath there. We're bringing some paints gray, and to that make a gray, dark gray, and dark greenish gray, and that overhang some of them down over the wall. Put some of that over here on the shadow side of those, that greenery, like that. There we are. There's also one more about yellow and yellow mixed over here. There's also some greenery over here. Like that. And a little bit more green over here. A little brighter. There. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry. While that's drying, I'm gonna get a smaller flat brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick up some. I'm gonna clean this palette. I don't need this color now. Clean that up. I'm gonna pick up some ultramarine blue, like that, and use that ultramarine blue and come over here on this shadow side. There, like that. Come over here, same thing. And do all this whole thing with that blue, this whole side, including the people that are on the sidewalk. There. Like that. And before that dries, I'm also going to make a little bit more of the ultramarine blue, add a little bit more water to my brush. There, I'm going to bring in some of the sepia also into that, make a little darker gray. There we are. Like that. I'll clean my brush, and now I'm going to bring in some yellow ochre. And come over here and give that yellow, kind of yellowish, creamy, or whatever color in the shadows. See, the yellow ochre breaks those other colors, but it doesn't take away the colors. It just breaks them a little bit. So that's the beautiful way of doing this wall. It doesn't turn green either. Now I'm gonna also bring in some burnt sienna. There we are. Now all of this is in the shade. A little bit more burnt sienna. There. I'm gonna leave that. Maybe I'll add some burnt sienna to that. Yeah, that's good. There's also some greenery there, but I'm gonna leave it like that for now. And I'm gonna let that dry. My street is dry now. All of this is dry. So I'm gonna start adding, start painting the other items. I'm gonna let this dry for now. But while that's drying, I'm gonna do that sidewalk. Right down by the car. There we are. The sidewalk. And then I'm gonna take a small brush and I'm gonna do that car, those two cars. One is kind of, I'm gonna might as well use this blue that I have in my palette. Like that. And bring that cut over here. Like that. Put that. And the other one is kind of gray, but I'm gonna bring a little bit of brownish red into it. And that. And let it blend into that color. Bring a little bit more of that color over here. There, like that. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry. Make this cut a little taller. And then I'm gonna mix some sepia. There we are. Over here like that. With burnt sienna. I'm sorry, with ultramarine blue. I shouldn't say burnt sienna. I'm gonna let that dry and then connect this through the shadow side underneath the car and then the tires. There, like that. Also the windows. Rear window, the car. Now, while I have that gray, I'm gonna add a little bit more water to my brush, add some cobalt blue this time to this gray, and do these buildings. And the things that are on top of the buildings, and windows, and doors, like that. Add some burnt sienna to that mixture, kind of warm it up a little bit, and do this, the other items, like that, the windows and doors, balconies and whatever, things that are on top, chimneys, whatever. Another window here, another window there, door. There. There we are. The same thing on this building. put a little bit of brown matter into that mixture. And it looks like a balcony here. It goes around the corner there too. There we are, some architectural details. And then a window over here, a couple of windows. There we are. There's another balcony over here. And some overhang. The door overhang there. Some windows over here. And there we are. This building over here has a, looks like an overhang too also. And there we are, like that. And there's a big window here. There. This has some overhang over the building. So, clean my brush, get some cobalt blue, mix over here, like that. A little bit of this steel cobalt. And then there, mix with that gray, and we'll shade this the side of the house, this building. There, like that. And this building here, more ultramarine blue, a little bit of sepia. And this has some awnings. The shadow there. It has an opening. Very tall opening there. Also do a darker color over here for this shadow area. There, like that. And there's some get some dark color. It's a window over here. Big window. And there's a door. Yeah, like that. I think what I'm going to do is, it's not on the photograph, but I'm going to add some windows here. There we are. That looks better. This area over underneath the thatch roof is the shade, so it's pretty dark. Like that. Also, get some more blue, and this time I'm going to use some burnt umber and do these openings. There's another window over here. I think there's a door for that balcony there, and a window, and another window. There, like that. And this overhang, then there's a window over here, another window, there, like that. And then this door. Like that. Now add a little bit of that gray, warmer gray, to the underside of this balcony. And that will be casting a shadow there too. So for that I'm going to use some yellow orange, some burnt sienna, and with this gray, and here's that shadow. There. I'm going to use some of the sepia, mixing that gray and with this turquoise color, make that shadow color for this also. There. And that's casting a shadow over here. I'm going to make that a little darker. There we are. There. These things are casting a shadow on that wall. And add some more of this pink to brighten these walls up. They're very bright. All the detail there. This overhang is kind of gray, warm gray. Actually, no, it's kind of bluish gray. There, like that. There's a shadow underneath there too. So I'm gonna get this flat brush, get some of this blue, gray, and do this shadow. There we are. And then do that door. There we are. And do this edge. There. And that street is pretty much, that side is pretty much done. But on this side, it's much darker. So I'm gonna bring in, I'm gonna get some more ultramarine blue into this gray over here and darken this wall. bring some more yellow ochre. A little bit of burnt sienna. Now it's in the shade. There we are. There. And that sidewalk also will be much darker. At the same time, I'm going to get this brown matter mixed with the cobalt, with the ultramarine blue, and there's the shadows. This tire, these cars. There we are. Now I'm going to also do those shadows on the street. Get more of that brown matter. Here it is. Get some of the cobalt blue. Get that color. And now we do this shadow. A little bit more water in my brush, more of those same colors. More blue. More blue. Yeah. Bring this over here. Like that. A bit more water and pick up some cerulean blue. And add some of that cerulean blue to the shadow. Same thing to this sidewalk. There we go. And there's some items on top over here that will be cast in the shadow over here, like that. There's some vegetation that will be cast in the shadow too. Like that. There. And I'm going to use the same thing, same color, and that little bit of at the bottom of these buildings. And there's a post over here that will be cast in a shadow. There's another post over here that will be cast in a shadow. There's one over there. All of this, make it this dark in this sidewalk. There. And then I'm going to get some of the yellow ochre with the cadmium orange to the edge and for that sidewalk there, like that. This edging for this sidewalk too. They do that in Mexico. Edges of sidewalks. I don't know why they do that, but they do. There, like that. Okay, now I'm gonna treat this. This is all dry. Before I do that, I'm gonna add some greenery on that side, but that's gonna be fairly dark. I'm gonna use an undersea green. Mix this and this gray. I'm gonna add some sepia there with the undersea green, because all of this is in the shade. In fact, I'm gonna add quite a bit more of the sea green there with sepia, and there. It's kind of overhanging. From the wall like that, a little further down. Yeah, like that. A little bit more of that over here. There we are. And now I'm going to add some of the elements over here. Some of the, we get some sepia, quite a bit of sepia, some ultramarine blue. You get some of the windows and treatments. There's a window there. Actually, it's a balcony. There's another window there, another window there. And it has a balcony. There, like that. And there's another window over here with a balcony too. There. And there's another window over here. Series of windows there. And there's a door. With a window. And this has some architectural details. Yeah. And there's also bring some ultramarine blue and sepia. And there's a very tall electrical post here. And there's some burnt umber with this brown. I'll do this post that is kind of leaning. Like that. There we are. And there's a little bit more brown. There's another post over here. And one over here. And another one here. Like that. This. There's another post over here. Like that. There. And then we can make this taller. And there's another one over here. There, right there. Okay. Now I'm gonna start adding a few other little items on the streets here. I'm gonna make this some items on the top of these buildings. Antennas and things like that. Antennas. There we go. A bunch of other items. Like that. And like I said before, these streets are not pristine. They're not, so I'm going to add some of the texture on some of the street. There's a little bit of paver in this street here. So I'm going to add a little bit of those pavers. Not too much there, just a faint indication of pavers on the street. Like that. And now I'm going to take a smaller brush and do the people. Use some darker colors too. There's a gentleman over here by this car. There like that. A little bit of brown. There's a couple of people over here. Lady. There's another one over here. There's some more people on this side, one by this door, by this building. street. A little larger. Yeah, like that. And I'm going to start giving some of these people color clothing. This one is going to have a little bit of red shirt. Another one with red over here. And some of that turquoise. And this person over here. Some blue over here. And there we are. And then this person will be pretty much just blue. Okay, the painting is pretty much done. So I will take this tape and bring a darker board so you will be able to appreciate this image a little bit more than on this white background. But before I do that, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get some of this darker gray tone, some sepia, and I'm going to do the electrical things like that. There's some there we are. A few more of those, going from one side of the street to the other. Like that. That is. Bunch of electrical things going connected to these buildings. Like that. All right. And there's remove this. And here comes the dark board. Fold this a little bit. And I'm going to minimize it so you will be able to see. And there it is. Old Cancun street. The old side of town. Not in the new pristine area with gardens and landscapes and brand new buildings. This area has far more character than that. Thank you for watching this demonstration and hope you enjoyed my painting. And please visit my website at aafinearts.com, where you will see information about my virtual classes and a selection of my paintings and prints. Until the next time.